Welcome to A Cork in the Road, and I am here to highlight all the people in the wine world in the Southeast, Atlanta, Decatur, and beyond that are shaping the game and really putting us on the map for what the wine industry can be like in the South. And I'm so excited today because you're going to get to know one of my favorite people here in Atlanta, Billie Harris, founder of the Vino Van LLC. She's killing it. She does pop-up tasting. She takes people up north to Georgia wine country and really just explores with this connection to all of the people that are interested in getting to know more about wine in general, but also what we're doing in Georgia. Billie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy.
We're testing out this new video stream, so here we go. But before we get super deep into wine nerdiness, please tell me how you got started in the wine industry. Where did this interest come from? How did it all get started?
Well, so I'm a country girl. I'm from a place called Woodville, Mississippi, and food where I'm from is everything. Flavors are everything. And when I moved here to Atlanta in '99, I was, of course, on a search for just delicious food, just something that would, be comforting to me in this new city and kind of remind me of home at the same time. And in my food journey, along the way, I learned how important wine was, to food. And, in my world, food and wine is a marriage, basically. You just really can't have one without the other. And if you do it, this would be such a boring dining experience, right? So that's kind of where it come from. I learned the more I learned about the different flavors and foods, I understood the importance of wine pairing.
So it really started with this love of food, which I think a lot of people can relate to because I think what happens sometimes is food can really change wine and wine can change food. And this combination makes it a whole new experience. But I love that you got started in that and you were like, hey, I'm going to take it to the next level. But why wine? Why not beer? Why not spirits? What drew you into the wine industry in particular?
Well, and I'm sure this is, something that's true, that holds true with beer and with spirits. But to me, I relate it more to wine just because of everything that entails, from the history behind it, from the culture, from wine is a little bit of everything. It's science. It is an art as well. And that is my background. My background is art. I'm a graduate of the Art Institute of Atlanta. Yeah. So my major was graphic design, but I did see the beauty, in the art of making wine, and that intrigued me so much. And I just wanted to learn more, about wine. It's just one of those things. It's life to me.
That is true. I always love this combination of art and craft science that goes into wine. I think that's something I kind of come from the opposite side of you, Billie. I come from the science world. I studied chemistry and physiology and exercise science, but it was when I first was in the cellar with my winemaker back in Virginia, it was like, wow, we're doing pH level testing and we're testing the soil content and we're deciding what grapes. And I was like, this is awesome. But then that's the science part. But then you've got to have that craft artisan look into the beauty of the wine because it's more than just a farm product. Yes, it starts there, but I think the crafting happens in the cellar and the people that are around it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So I have to ask you, because everybody needs to know about the Vino Van. So when did Vino Van start? And tell me about your tours up there, because you take people up in this awesome van. I've done it for my birthday before with my friends, but tell us about the Vino Van, where that concept came from and why you thought you needed to take people up to North Georgia wine country.
Well, I have been going up there to those vineyards now, maybe 11 years personally, just with family and friends. And the thing is, I always found where I had to either, of course, drive myself or rent a van if it was a large group of us and find a driver. And it was just a lot that went into planning that tour. And so I just say, well, if I'm having this difficult time and if I'm wanting to find, a little more luxury, going up there to the vineyards, I'm sure there are other people in the city that feel the same way or that may be going through the same thing. So, that's kind of what gave me the idea of the Vino Van. And it was so funny because I used to speak about the Vino Van at least maybe 3 years or so before I even, before it even came into fruition. And I spoke about it as if it was already here because that was a big dream of mine, just to kind of, connect people with the world of wine in that way. And, because I'm living here in Atlanta now and I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, I just sought out things that was right here in the state that I'm living in. When I discovered those vineyards, I really found in speaking to other people that a lot of people didn't even know, that Georgia had vineyards and wineries. So that was even more, of a driving force for me, just to want to introduce them to that, to the vineyards and wineries here, because there's some really good wine in Georgia.
I think a lot of times I start off classes or events with, Georgia makes wine. Surprise everyone. Because it's still to this day, I'm sure you have that all the time of people like, wait, where do you go in North Georgia? Or the buzz is starting and people are hearing about it, but they're still not sure how to get up there, what it all entails. And so I always say, contact the Vino van because she'll take you. At least you get an exposure and you don't have to drive yourself. So it's perfect.
No. And then we visit on my tours. We rotate between 7. And so even if you've taken the tour once, you come again, it's, you're going to go somewhere different, so it's going to always be, a new experience.
And you're always looking. So tell me some of the superstar producers up there. Cause I know for yourself, you sometimes go up there as kind of like checking out new potential stops. You're always keeping your eye open for new places. So what are some of the superstars and what are they making?
Well, there's one of the ones, and this one is actually the oldest up there, and it's Haversham Winery. They started in, I think it was 1983. And, so they were one of the pioneers up there. And so they are like notorious for their muscadine wine that everyone loves so much, because that is a native grape, to Georgia. And it grows very well up there, I must say. But another grape is Traminette. That's another one.
Oh, that's one of my faves.
Yeah, it grows really well up there. And most of them now, I see that they do offer a Traminette. At one point in time, Haversham was one of the few that I knew, and also Serenity Cellars. But, now you'll see it in the portfolios of a few of them. But Haversham is one. Another one I love that I enjoy is Stonewall Creek. Even though their vineyard is in Tiger, Georgia, they do have a tasting room in Saltee, which is on my route where I go, where my van goes. And so, passengers get to experience those wines without having to go up to Tiger.
Yeah. But you can go up to Tiger if you want to.
You definitely can. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay. So I love that you mentioned some of those grapes because you've been going up there for a long time. So what has changed since you were up there, in the past? Like, what are some trends you're seeing? What are new grapes that you're finding from when you started going to now?
Well, one of the things, of course, when I first started going, there was a lot of muscadine, like I mentioned. It was everywhere. Every vineyard and winery had their own version. And granted, they were all different. For those wine lovers that want something that's not so sweet, they're starting to make some really beautiful wines using one in particular, Sanita. Sanita grows Barbera on property.
Oh, I love their Barbera, and I love when people are doing Barbera. So I think you were the one that took me there, and I was like, say what? I got really excited about it.
Yeah, I thought that was so amazing. Barbera is one of those grapes you don't really hear a whole lot, especially not here in Georgia, about, them being grown here. So I thought that was a really neat thing. And it is delicious, like you said. But in addition to the Traminette grape and that Barbera grape, they do have, the Chardonnay grapes that they grow up there. And they, like one of them in particular, Stonewall, they make something that's, it's Chardonnay, but it's more similar in style to Chablis. Not as heavily oaked as some of the other Chardonnays that a lot of people are used to drinking. So it's very refreshing, just to see the different variants in the grapes themselves.
That's so cool. I think that's really fun too. And we both love wine. We love to travel for wine. And when you go to a place, you kind of find, you want to know, what are you doing for your climate, for your soil, for your place? Because I think as a wine lover, I think we all kind of enjoy this part. And you mentioned that a little bit before of like the culture. It's like the wine expresses the place more than other type. It's like, I want to taste what's different about that land. And I may have mentioned to you even in our fun talks about wine, but when I'm at a coastal area and if I can ever taste some salinity in wine, like that makes me excited because I know I'm by the ocean. The vines are by the ocean. I want to taste and smell that. So when you go to North Georgia, you want to know, hey, what are they doing that's specific to their climate? What can they do well? You don't want it to be, trying to be someone they're not. So fun that you're seeing these different types of trends and what they're learning.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so interesting. And I'm just thinking about it now that you're saying that. But Sanita that I mentioned earlier, that used to be a farm, a dairy farm, actually, back in the day. And so I do feel like you can taste quite a bit of earthiness in their wines. I'm sure you can agree. And
Yes.
I'm sure that's the reason why they're able to grow that grape there at Sanita. But then at Serenity is at the bottom of, it's like you come up this mountain and then they sit right down at the bottom of the mountain, but all of the vines are like on a slope. Their wines, they tend to be a little more, they're not as heavy as the wines are at Sanita. They're not as, they're full body, but it's not, you don't get like the mallow that you get on the palate when you are at Sanita. There at Serenity, it's a little more crisp, even though they are bigger grapes, like your cab grapes or whatever, but they still have a lighter feel on your palate. And then at Kaya is brand spanking new. It's only been there a couple of years, and you can taste that as well. Their wines are very young, very light body. All of them, actually. Even their bigger grapes are still lighter in body. So it's very interesting to see that.
It's really cool that you mentioned Kaya because I went there maybe the first weekend that they opened. So I'm due to go back because I haven't been. Okay. And, in a couple of years, things can drastically change what they're doing in the barrel, what's happening in the aging process. I got to try kind of that initial vintage, but I'm pumped to see what they learned from their surrounding. When you're up there, and speaking of that, you go to so many places, you have connections with all of the winemakers and the owners that you have those regular tours with. What do you see as like the community up there? Are people talking, or is it competitive, or like, do they share information? What do you see kind of as the group of wineries up there in North Georgia?
I see a lot of love. That's another thing that's, that makes me want to continue to go there. And I'm just happy that I'm able to provide the service and take people up there. And that's because they're all friends, like all of them. There have been times when I've been at Kaya and I've bumped into someone from Stonewall Creek. I mean, it's just, they support each other. And I like that. It's like a family up there, and that's very similar to where I come from in Mississippi. That's how we are. Everybody knows everybody. Small town where I'm from, you do get that. You get the small town. It's all good vibes and it's all love. And that's
it is. That's so, and I noticed that just in general, I would have to say just my limited experience of different regions where I've worked in the industry. Yeah. It's like, it's the least competitive thing I ever imagined. Like we were often sharing, hey, you're at our tasting room, then down the road, check out these people and drink their beautiful Petit Manseng, and I was saying that as like a tour guide and supporting the group of wineries as a destination. And I think that Georgia's learning how to do that too, as long as they keep the love going and stay strong.
I know. And it's been consistent, I must say. All these years I've been going, I've seen it. It's been very consistent.
That's so awesome. And you kind of talked about this of like where you come from and that community. I want to know all about how you got the idea. You started Vino Van, rolling with that, but you also, don't you do some pop-up tastings for people?
Yeah,
because I think that's what you're growing this community, Billie. Every time I run into you, it's like, or I run into somebody else that likes wine here in Atlanta, they all know you. So I think it's really interesting. You've really built this community. So where did the pop-up tasting idea come from, and how does that kind of support your overall goal of like a wine community here in Atlanta?
Well, as far as the pop-up tastings go, I felt like there were, and this was just in my experiences with going out with friends and running into, certain people and just meeting new people. But there were a lot of people that I found that, liked wine. They enjoyed drinking wine, but they may have been, a little reluctant to talk about it, or they may have thought that it was a little more pretentious than what it really is. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be fun. Wine is fun. An experience in different types of varietals is fun as well. So I just wanted to get people more comfortable, with experimenting and trying different wines and not just sticking to the same old thing, and get more comfortable with wine terminology. Knowing that, no, you don't have to take classes or go to wine school to talk about wine and to know what you're talking about. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to the community, introduce people to, certain things and fun little tidbits, and most importantly, help them figure out their flavor profiles and what they like. A lot of people say, well, this and I don't like that, but maybe you just hadn't tasted in a certain way or from a certain region. It's completely different.
I think we're both on the same page with that. I think that's something that I'd really try to do when we're designing, and we've collaborated before to do those types of things, because we want to be the people that open the door for someone that just has an interest, but hasn't necessarily taken the chance to try something new. And hey, if they learn something new, if they try a new wine, we've done something right. And I think I'm always curious for you. What are some of the main, like the most common questions that you get at your pop-ups? Like, what are people asking? What do they want to know more about wine?
They want to understand more. How is it that, let's say, for instance, a Pinot Noir. How is it that the same grape tastes different if it comes from Oregon than it does if it comes from France? They don't understand maybe what goes into that or why that is. So at the pop-ups, I explain to them the idea of terroir, which is the soil, the climate and the weather, which are definitely two different things. Also the winemaker style and what they're trying to accomplish in that wine. All of that plays a part. Even if it is the same grape, the beauty in it is that the same grape can taste completely different and you can enjoy them both. You don't have to just limit yourself to just one region. That's one of the questions that I get a lot. Another question that I get a lot is about how long you can store wine. Like after you open the bottle.
Oh, Billie, I could show you like text messages out the wazoo for me for that. Right. That's what people want to know. And what do you say? What are some of your guidelines?
Well, I just tell them, the best thing to do is to open it with friends. So when you open it, you can finish it. But if that's not possible all the time, I just tell them I would give it 3 days max. That may be pushing it a little bit, maybe 1 to 2 days, and anything after that. Not saying that the wine will be, bad per se, but it just won't be the quality that it's intended to be for you to drink. But you still don't have to throw it away. You can cook with it even after that. It's still not a waste. So I let them know that too, that you don't have to throw it out. You can just use it for cooking purposes.
So you're a true believer and no wine goes to waste, and I appreciate it. No. What are you drinking at home, Billie? Like what do you like on like a Tuesday versus a Friday? Like when you talk about, how long things are open at home, but like what are you in the mood for after a busy week or prepping for the weekend? What are you drinking at home?
Well, a few of my favorites. I really enjoy a Gruner Veltliner. That's one of my faves. I also enjoy a really nice Viognier from time to time. The grapes that I enjoy aren't, necessarily the typical grapes that people drink, like your Chardonnay and, Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio and such. But, I enjoy those, the not so usual suspects, I guess you could call them. As far as my white wines, my red wines, I'm kind of all over the place with those. I do enjoy blends though. I do. I enjoy blends and I enjoy French blends.
Awesome. So French right now, I was wondering for region wise, like when you're in a shop, I always try to teach people too about knowing some different characteristics that are signature of different regions or different appellations. So when you're in the shop, do you have a go-to region? Like when you say for reds, you like your red blends, but are you liking Chilean blends? You like your French blends, American blends? What are you looking for?
I do like French blends. I do. That's probably my number one. After that, I really enjoy wines from Spain. I enjoy Spanish wines. I don't know. They just have a richness about them. Like I can taste the history. I can taste the culture in that bottle. But it's very bright and it's very lively, and it makes me happy when I drink it. So I just it's kind of weird because like when I drink French wine, I do get a different kind of feel. I know it may sound a little crazy, but I can feel it. I can taste it. I can smell it. I can do all of that, in that bottle.
As someone who loves obviously you started with food as getting really into wine and the pairings. I think Spanish wines lately, I've been doing these like really nice old vine Riojas with like my charcuterie plates for the holidays. Like it's such a great combination, these smoky meats with your smoky oaky like Riojas. It's such a fun combination. And think about all the Spanish meats that go with your Spanish wine. So when you talk about that, I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with you.
You really truly can, and then, when you introduce that to people, that's another thing that's fun too. When you introduce certain things to people, it's like like a light bulb comes on and at that point they get it.
If you have, you're obviously an inspiration to a lot of people that come to your classes or go on your tours, but who inspires you, Billie? Like, I know you've been studying. I know that you always are learning. So who in the wine scene, either in Atlanta or just in general, inspires you to continue your journey, your adventure with wine?
Well, it's been a lot of people along my journey, I must say. But if I go back to when I first started off, and this was before I started taking the classes at the Atlanta Wine School, which is now called Vino Venue, but it was the Atlanta Wine School then. And going for my wine at my WSET, I was taking classes at Emory, and they were just wine 101 basics, continuing with their continuing education department. And my teacher's name was and still is Nancy Waldeck. And Nancy Waldeck is a healthy chef and cardiologist. And, she also is a master of wine. And she was my inspiration. She's a very well-traveled woman. And all of these places that she talked about in her classes and these wines that she shared with us in her classes, she had been to all of these places, and just listening to her stories. And, she would show a slide from when she's visited these places. That was just so inspiring to me. I think the world of her. And she's such a sweet person. She's very sweet. And she's always ready to help me. Or, if I have a question, she's, Johnny on the spot. And I really appreciated her for that. And even now, we still have a very good relationship. And she does these fun pop-ups, very similar to the ones that I do. As a matter of fact, a lot of the ideas that I have, she's helped me with those, as far as how to do my pop-ups and, so forth. And that she's been one of the key people. And then also she has a friend that sometimes does the pop-ups with her, Sandra Moore. She's another wonderful woman in wine. And then, of course, a few of the winemakers, along the way that I've met. And these are some heavy hitters. These are like old world, like Bartholomew Broadbent. We are still in contact now. He is a great mentor. Joseph Carr. He's a really sweet soul. What I like about him so much is that he has these awesome stories with his wines. And when he's serving you his wines, he's telling you these stories along with the wines. And it's just the most amazing thing. So he's another person that I look up to in the wine world, as well as Jean Trimbach. Had the opportunity to meet him a few times, actually. And it's always been a wonderful conversation. So it's just been so many people. And of course, you too, Kelly. It's been a lot of people in my wine journey that's kept me going and kept me inspired. And I appreciate all of them. And even the ones to come, that I'm going to meet in the future.
I think it's true. I think there's this community that you get attached to. I think, and I was thinking about that for you. I think we share this connection to the people that are involved with wine, and that elevates the whole experience of wanting to go to events, go to tasting rooms. I always like to talk to the people, tell me everything about your craft, right? And I think that for you, you get that chance to be that person for people, but then it was so fun to hear all the people that have inspired you. And a lot of them come through Atlanta. Like, what are some of the places in Atlanta that you've been able to have? Like, we're really in a great place in the city to cater with our restaurant scene in Atlanta. I think it's bringing some attention, but what are some experiences that are kind of highlights for you from your time in Atlanta?
Well, the Atlanta Food and Wine Festival always does it for me. I've been enjoying it for years, and I try to at least make at least a few of the seminars if I can, and of course definitely some of the private dinners and the other events that they have going on. So that's been one of the things that I look forward to every year. In addition to that, like on a consistent basis, like weekly, I like to go to Vino. That's one of my favorite places to be, especially, during the week, because they always have new wines from regions. And, a lot of times that was the very first place that I'd ever tried Slovenian wine ever was at Vinoteca. So, I can just appreciate things like that.
That's amazing. I do think that they have such a, they're right in a place where people are walking by, stop on in, come pick something off the shelf. That's an approachable price point. Definitely shout out to Katie Rice over there. They're really bringing in wines that people can try that they may have never heard of. And they're able to try a new grape, a new region for like a $20 price point. And it's pretty impressive. And I think you're right. You go in there, you're always going to find something new. And that you even have wines that you've tasted there that you're like, that was my first experience. And I think my first experience meeting John Trimbach was at Vinoteca as well. So they're doing some really cool things for the city. I absolutely agree. Any other experiences? Food and Wine Festival. Have you ever been to the High Museum, Atlanta Wine Auction? How does that experience fit into your life?
Yeah. Now, that was the coolest thing, that by far the coolest thing that I've been to, especially that Friday feed that you had. That was pretty amazing. And I was actually very honored to be able to donate one of my tours to the silent auction for that. And I just, I always enjoyed High Museum of Wine. And another thing too, last year, I think it was last year, when they did the private dinner at Restaurant Eugene. It was a year before when they did it at Restaurant Eugene. And Ted Turner was there. I thought that was the coolest thing.
They really bring the Atlanta crowd together for sure. They have those pre-events with the dinners. I definitely can't wait to hear what they're doing this year. Those pre-events are always super fun. They're usually really intimate. They have tastings, dinners, food pairings. So let's definitely coordinate on going to some of those together and keep an eye out when those get out. Well, Billie, I want to give you a chance here. Any other final wrap up, what would you tell somebody who wants to get started to learn a little bit more about wine? What's your key advice to get started this weekend? What's one of the first things someone can do to learn more about wine?
Find a wine tasting somewhere. I mean, go to your local wine shops, go to their website. Tasting is the best way to learn about wine because when you taste it, then you can talk about it. Then you can research it. Then you can kind of match it with the flavors in the wine. But that's the best way, in my opinion, to learn about wine is just to taste around and try new and different varietals.
I mean, we have to go out and we have to taste wine and enjoy ourselves. Okay, sounds good. Right. Sounds like good school to me. So where can people find you online? How can they find more about your tours or your pop-ups?
I am on Facebook and Instagram at The Vino Van LLC on both. My website is also www.thevinovan.com. And on the Facebook and Instagram, that's where you'll find the links to the pop-up tastings that I host monthly. They're typically towards the end of each month, and they're always themed. That's fun. And we usually have anywhere from 8 to 10 wines and small bites that I pair with each wine. And, we just have a fun evening of trying new wines, learning your flavor profiles, learning the importance of food pairings and how to pair, which is very easy. Like I said, it's not hard at all, and it's a lot of fun. But in addition to that, the wine tours, they run every single week. So it's very, easy to jump on a tour. Or you can, of course, always give me a call. I love speaking with my guests. I call them my guests because that's what they are. And you can give me a call and find out more about my tours and to also book them.
You're the best, Billie. I can't wait to go on more wine adventures with you. Thank you for your time today. I can't wait for other people to explore with you as well. And as always, cheers to you. Thanks for changing the game here in Georgia and Atlanta.
It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. So much fun. This is fun.
So much fun. Cheers to you, Billie.